Welcome to The Frontline, a leadership and business podcast brought to you by Peregrine Corporate Services, an Isle of Man-based fiduciary provider. My name is Mercer Hole, and thanks for listening. In this podcast, we chat to an array of business leaders from different sectors to learn more about them, their market, skill sets and knowledge. We hope you enjoy. In a moment, we will be joined by Liz Cuthbertson of Mercer Hole. We conducted our chat over Zoom and encountered a few technical issues. You will hear a little bit of feedback on the audio, but please bear with us as this is only temporary. Thank you. Today we're joined by Liz. Liz, thanks for joining us today.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So perhaps to provide our listeners a little bit of background, where did you grow up and your education?
So I grew up in West Yorkshire. I was educated at a grammar school in Halifax, and following my school education, I attended Reading University, where I studied German and Italian, following which I went off into chartered accountancy training.
Just to go on the uni point there, what made you decide to do those studies particularly?
So when I was at school, I really enjoyed studying the languages, though I didn't study Italian at school. That came later at university. But I really enjoyed studying French and German was my favourite subject for some time. So it was a natural choice to study modern foreign languages, and joining university particularly interested me at the time because they had a very strong Italian department, which I was hoping to take as a third subject, which I did. So in the first year, I actually studied 3 languages, French, German and Italian.
Right.
Following which I had to make a choice so that I could only study 2 to honours degree level. And it was a tough decision, but actually I really enjoyed the Italian. So I dropped French and took the Italian further, which I'm really pleased that I did, because it was a great experience living in Italy as part of my degree course. And of course, combining that with German, it's quite an unusual combination.
Yeah.
But it's very enjoyable.
I haven't ever learned any languages, and it's probably still struggling with English, to be honest. Yeah. I assume part of those studies you learn about their culture and their background as much as about learning how to speak the language.
Yes, that's absolutely right. My university course was German and Italian studies, studying the culture, the history, the politics and literature associated with those countries. So it's much deeper than just learning to speak the language. And to be honest, that is something which has really benefited me, because having spent time studying the languages and living in both of those countries, I've got a much deeper understanding of the people and their cultures. And that helps me today in the work I do and with clients from those from Germany and Italy.
Yeah, interesting, because I recorded a podcast earlier in the week exactly on sort of cultural differences and knowing what they are to help benefit in regard to client service, but also the networking and building relationships in those other places. So yeah, it does sound like a good bedrock. You mentioned there about going then to study accountancy. What pushed you in that direction?
Well, to some extent, I fell into it, but I was interested in business and combining business of some form with the languages, and so chartered accountancy was recommended as a business qualification. And it's funny how things sort of happened, because I was I joined the graduate recruitment milk round, as it was, and was offered a training contract with KPMG in London. And then a few weeks later, KPMG approached me to ask if I would be interested in doing my training in Germany, in Hamburg. So by that, they wanted to run a bit of a pilot scheme whereby somebody from the UK would train for a UK qualification, but actually do the work experience in another country. And obviously, having just finished my German studies, this was an amazing opportunity, which just fell into place. I went over to Hamburg, was interviewed, met some of the colleagues, and I was packing my bags in early September that year to start a very new and sort of changing life, professional life, first job and first experience of the workplace in a foreign place, speaking a foreign language. And interestingly, everything was conducted in German. People say to me, well, most Germans speak really good English, but actually everything was done in German. All the work papers, occasional English words were used, but the expectation was that German language would be spoken at all times. And so my German vocabulary just expanded, and my ability to converse in business environment with a business technical vocabulary just grew. So and that kind of happened without me realizing it. But it was really fascinating. I mean, working and living in a foreign country day in, day out is very different from when we're a student and we just go on a 6-month placement to study. You really start to immerse yourself in life, true life. There were times where I was probably thinking automatically in German. And going back to your point, about the people, the culture, when you're there all the time and you're just fully immersed in life, you do really embrace that other culture in every way. And I think that does enable us to connect and communicate better with people from those places that we've experienced that.
Absolutely, I'm sure. And how long were you with KPMG out there?
So I was with KPMG 3.5 years, and at the end of, so finished my training in 1997, and again, sort of funny way things work out. I was interested in exploring tax as a subject, but obviously UK tax is not the same as German tax, and for various non-professional reasons, personal reasons, I was thinking of coming back to the UK. So having made that decision and having come back to the UK, I was looking to expand my sort of technical training, perhaps with some tax qualification, and actually I eventually moved across into tax as an area to specialise in. But that took a little while, and looking back, obviously it's another training contract, it's another set of exams to do, but I haven't really looked back because I really enjoy advising clients on their UK tax affairs, and actually as part of my next steps, if you like, coming out of Germany, what I found was I didn't easily and automatically fit in with my peer group. So I'd been working in Germany for a number of years, and all of my work experience was German led, and was connected with advising German companies. And when I came back, it wasn't easy to find a natural home for me to go to immediately. And so I ended up working for a short time in private equity. I worked in the back office of a private equity firm, where I learned a lot from the head of tax, and also got into advising and becoming aware of the offshore planning that surrounds non-domiciled individuals. And that was very interesting, and the private equity environment was very interesting, and was an experience outside of professional practice, an experience of working in industry and seeing things from a different angle. also working with different sorts of people,
So
people from all around the world.
I was going to say that's where we've obviously done a little bit of work together in that sort of residency non-dom space. So is that when you look back at your career to this point, is that experience there what I suppose shaped you to go in the direction, well, not in the direction, but pushed you more down the stuff you specialise in today?
Yes, I think so, because I was working in the tax department, and the work I was doing was quite varied, and the head of tax was advising the key executives on how to structure their remuneration from the private equity in a tax efficient way, which sometimes would include offshore vehicles where appropriate. That's where I was also doing my training, my tax qualification, and I was studying evenings for the tax exams. And having done a few years in an in-house industry environment, it was becoming clear to me that if I really wanted to progress in the profession, one, I had to get back into the profession, but I had a choice between doing more of the same and becoming very, very specialised at a very early stage in my career in a niche area. Private equity and co-investment, it's quite specialist stuff. Yeah. And actually, what I was missing was the people aspect of servicing clients. I've always said I would say that I'm a people person, so I like to get to know people, and that was an aspect that I was missing. So I moved back into the profession to specialise in tax, and in particular in international areas of tax, which led me very nicely into advising offshore domiciled clients.
Yeah. And that took you to Mercer.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Mercer Hole presented an opportunity to develop myself in the way I wanted, because we, as a firm, we always say we don't set limits on where people can go and how many partners we'll have and so on. An opportunity for people to take ownership and develop their own career, and that was very came at the right time and very refreshing, and I was able to join Mercer Hole for the first couple of years or so as a partner's assistant before making my way through to partnership. Yeah. And I've now been a partner for just over 10 years, looking after a very broad range of clients. Clients from the UK, of course. We have lots of UK domicile families, and we advise on all areas of the UK tax legislation for them. But also many of our clients, particularly London clients, are from overseas. I have quite a big number of European clients, and in particular with my language abilities, I have German and Italian clients particularly, and that's always been very nice for me to be able to have those and keep my language going and have that bit more of an affinity with them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I suppose maybe more of an overview in regard to the residency and non-domicile. That's an environment that obviously continues to change with tax legislation. How do you, over the years, do you just enjoy that challenge of that being updated over time and regularly and meeting those challenges and then meeting the client's needs? Because I don't know, does it become frustrating at times when as I suppose as an observer, these goalposts change in regard to the taxation and the rules, or do you just find that as a challenge and enjoy managing the clients through that?
I think there's always going to be an expectation of some changes on the tax legislation front. So we always have to anticipate that any advice we give, one, we can only ever advise from a position of current legislation, and we always say that to clients, but nobody can guarantee that things won't change in the future. But we always have to acknowledge that legislation can and does sometimes change. And so when we do advise clients and on particular transactions, I think it's always important to consider, does this work now, medium, longer term? What if there's a fundamental change? Could it be something that would still hold benefit for the client? And I've no doubt that we'll see further changes in the legislation. I mean, over the past few years, Martin, we've seen so many changes for clients from for our non-domicile clients, and at each stage, there's been a reaction on the part of clients. And of course, some of these changes have not been always welcome news, but changes come in and they become familiar, and the impact of them becomes familiar to clients, and we adapt. We adapt our response to client situations as a consequence of new legislation. Planning and looking after clients, it's always evolving. It's never done and finished. It's a continuing dialogue with clients. At the heart of everything is the relationship with clients, knowing what they're doing, what's going on in their family, what their goals and objectives are. And legislation changes will always come and go and affect things, but our response to those comes from being close to our clients and being able to help them navigate their way through it and find the best solutions. So, you know, that's something that we are particularly proud of.
And I think you kind of, it's almost doubled or tripled at the moment with, I'm sure for the number of years, although it seems a long time ago, that Brexit discussion started, and obviously it doesn't really get a headline anymore with everything else, but that, and I'd guess with COVID, I'd assume ultimately in lockdown, again, if people are stuck in certain locations where perhaps they were fleeting in and out of before, residencies now, as this goes on, a serious concern for some people in tax aspects and not getting caught out on their residency aspect.
That's right. I think over the past few months, well, certainly a few of my clients have specifically contacted me with worries about their residence position, because they are situated, they find themselves in places they hadn't intended to be. And I've got various examples I could give you. On both sides, I've got clients who have been detained in the UK for longer, and equally clients who are detained in overseas countries for longer than they had expected. That's quite a topical issue. We've got HRC guidance at the moment on how they've said they will regard people in that situation, though there are limits, of course, to the number of days that they will disregard when looking at their residence position. But we're all experiencing something new, and I would hope that there will be a practical and sensible approach to how somebody's circumstances will be regarded if they are genuinely detained in a place for reasons outside of their control. So we'll have to watch the space on that and see what happens in practice. It's not being tested, but the guidance looks helpful for now.
Oh, that's good. That's good. So you mentioned earlier when you were at the private equity firm, the head of tax and working with them, and I maybe got the impression that a mentor potentially, your career, have you had mentors that you had on that helped you?
From early on in my career, the people at KPMG when I was training, and she was also my training program, and she's incredibly inspiring as a professional. There were some challenges to going to Germany and working in that environment, which I would not have anticipated as a young employee in the workforce. But she was really encouraging in all respects and really helped me settle into life, one, in a new country, but two, work life. Most of my year group, most of my colleagues who were starting their training contracts were a good few years older than me, because in Germany they tend to have had some work experience in the workplace before starting their contracts, and their university degree courses take a bit longer, and so they have a slightly different model. And it was just one of those challenges. So start entering the workforce at 23, and both of my colleagues were that bit older with more experience. I suppose I felt daunted by it, but I was incredibly well supported. I mean, by Maura particularly, because she really sort of helped me and encouraged me to find my feet and to feel at home, but also many others as well. And I learned so much from being thrown in at the deep end in an environment which was, really quite long hours, very early start, long days, working and socialising with the same people, and a very competitive environment. And I think that there might have been a bit of, wondering, well, how is this 23-year-old going to be fully qualified in 3 years when the German equivalent qualification is a longer training. So what I'm trying to say is I had to be part of the team. I had to be welcomed and be fully accepted on an equal footing. And for me, looking back, I learned a lot very quickly from how to deal with people by just being in at the deep end, not just professionally, but also winning people over. And I have colleagues and friends from those days today, and I have very fond memories of my time there, and I'm very grateful to some of the people who really helped me and enabled me to fit in so well.
And early on you touched on obviously building relationships with clients and the importance of that. I suppose expanding that a little bit further, when you're perhaps just looking to network generally, so perhaps looking at new business, so what have you learned through your career, and perhaps that might help listeners to want to continue to build their network again? Not necessarily new clients, but new contacts.
So in terms of building my network?
Yeah, just from your experience, how you achieve that.
I think with networking, I keep a very open mind about who to get to know, because I've certainly had business development come from the most unexpected and impromptu conversations. And so whilst networking, it has to have I have a plan. I have a vague strategic plan as to where I'm going to network and the sort of people I want to get to know. But I also keep an open mind, because through just talking to people and getting to know people well, like-minded people who have common values and expertise that is useful to my clients, these are people who will probably be people that I am working with. And taking the time to just pick up the phone and have a catch-up conversation, certainly over the past few months where we've not been able to meet face to face, just having a conversation over Zoom and finding out how they are doing and sharing our experiences brings us closer together. So I think, always be following up. That's crucial with networking. If you go to an event or attend a webinar, it's all about following up. It's certainly to meet new people. People have, everyone's busy, and we don't stay in people's minds unless we're visible. And if we can't be visible face to face, we have to be in people's minds by being available on the phone. And it's a two-way relationship. I give my time generously to people to say, look, if you've got anything you want to run past me or talk about, just give me a call, because that pays off in the long run. People will, and I've got many contacts who have come out of this sort of arrangement whereby we each help each other, and we've got to know each other very well, and we trust each other. And I think that's really important to networking. And just following up with people, whether it's a business contact or even clients. Certainly during the last few months, I've had many conversations with clients where I've just picked up the phone just to see how they're doing.
That's very key word there, the visibility and availability.
I think so, and not keeping an open mind and not closing the door on experiences. I kept in touch with people who have been who've made really good impressions over the years, and I have a contact from my time in Germany who I now refer people to for local advice in a local town in Germany where necessary. So it's always good to identify good quality people who you want to get to know, but also make sure we're just ongoing available, look after people.
And if you've got those contacts and you can point clients, if you can't help them in that direction, then again, you're buying kudos with the client potentially down the road as well.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
So if people want to reach out to you, Liz, to chat about, whether it's, tax matters or reach out and have a conversation, what's the best way to get in contact with you?
So I'm contactable on my direct extension at Mercer Hole, which is 02.
I'll share that in our show notes, don't worry.
I'm also on LinkedIn. Anyone can find me on the Mercer Hole website.
Okay.
And those would be the three best ways to contact me. Through the website and my direct telephone.
I'll add them to our show notes. So if when people want to reach out, by all means, do so. Thanks for joining us today, Liz, and it's been really interesting digging into your background and certainly the culture aspect, which seems to be a subject we're talking about a bit at the moment. So thanks again for your time.
Thank you very much, Martin, and it's been lovely to talk to you. Thank you
very much. Thanks for listening, everyone.